Hi, I'm ED-SKaR, and in front of me is a vast selection of models because I've just been on a trip to pick them up. Because of that, I am quite tired, and also on top of everything else, this is the second time I have filmed this because I was completely out of frame last time. I have picked up, as you can see in front of me, the Rift Tech Mega Bundle for the Konflikt 47 second edition release, and it is... oh, it's a lot. I am a little bit overwhelmed, but I want to kind of go through it because apparently unboxings are popular, even though you've seen the contents of this 1,000 times. But because I actually went to Warlord games myself, I have a few extra things to show you at the end, which I picked up while I was there. Warlord games do this every year with an open day that you can go in, have a quick tour around the factory, see how things are made, see how things kind of work, and there's some kind of events and other things that you can kind of take part in. Now, I didn't really take a lot of pictures or videos while I was there, unfortunately. Kind of, again, tired, wasn't feeling well, wasn't really up to doing a big lot of filming, and I haven't done that in previous years either because I just want to enjoy it for myself rather than being the YouTuber and doing filming everything. But I'm sure you're probably bored of that discussion. Let's have a look at the Rift Tech Mega Bundle and what all is involved. So the primary part of the Rift Tech Mega Bundle is the 3 boxes that are available separately. We have the starter set for Konflikt 47 second edition, and then we have the armies box or the starter army for the Axis and the Americans. Because I have had to shuffle things around a bit to fit it on my motorbike, it's going to be a little bit of a mess, but I have sorted out at least all of the stuff that comes with the starter set back into its original box, so we can kind of start digging through that to see what's there. And I think we'll start with kind of the obvious thing, and that is the models. And as has been advertised extensively, a lot of the models, the vast majority of them, are brand new plastic sprues. So the original Konflikt 47, because it was relatively low production run, there was a lot of resin and metal, which are fantastic materials, and I do like them. They are a bit more expensive and they're not as versatile as plastic, so a lot of people prefer plastic, and that's fair, although a lot of people seem to think that metal and resin is bad. It's not bad just because something else is better. Anyway, we have 2 sprues each of the infantry for each side. The sprues for the Americans are the Firefly, and they have 6 per sprue for a total of 12. And the Germans have the Stahltruppen heavy infantry. Because they're bigger, there's only 3 of them per sprue, but that does mean that you get 6 of those in total in the box. I have looked at these particular sprues before on the website, but now that I have them, kind of the images in the advertising on the website, but now that I have them in hand, the quality is really, really nice. So Warlord games have been upping, just over the years, 5-10 years, they've been upping their quality greatly. If you look at some of the bolt action infantry kits from 10 years ago, they're not bad, they're pretty good, but the detail is softer, there's less detail present, and the options are great, but just kind of once they're painted, they look a little plain. The more modern kits, like the Italians, the French, the American Rangers, and the German veterans, all of those, the most recent sprues, really nice quality, lots of detail going into them, nice crisp, sharp moulding as well, and these are very much in those vein. Really good quality, really liking the detail, the quantity of detail, and also the sharpness of that detail. These are very good. We also have, 1 for each side, the light mechs, or rather the Germans get a light mech, the Americans get a medium mech. Vogelspinner, the Tarantula for the Axis, and the Linebacker, which I think is a sports reference, for the Americans. Both, again, really nice quality kits. Looking at the close-ups of this, the Vogelspinner, I've got some ideas of how I want to pose it, and it's going to be quite easy to do what I want to do because of the way that the pieces are laid out. I'm going to essentially need to build, cut them apart and then rebuild, but that's fine. I will make it happen. But also with these, you get plenty of weapon options. All right, I think there's 4 weapon options and 3 turrets. So you can pretty much build anything you want and you won't have to really magnetize very much. Just the 1 weapon option if you really want that last option. The linebacker, however, now this kit, the sprues on this look really, really impressive. Again, detail, quality, it's all there. But the way that it's put together, the ball joints used for the legs and the arms means it's posable without stressing about cutting anything. There is a little extra posability you can gain by doing some cutting, but you can have at least some basic posability without trying. But also, there's a clear plastic piece here for the canopy. So the pilot of this mech sits in what looks like an aircraft canopy. It kind of has that almost early jet fighter feel to it, 1950s jet fighter. The canopy is actually on a hinge, so you can paint the pilot, the driver, without needing to paint him first and then assembling it. You can just assemble the whole thing and paint it all in one go. And you have a clear plastic piece to put into the canopy. That's a really nice kit. The linebacker, when I first saw it, I wasn't that impressed for various reasons. It's not necessarily the style that I like, but in terms of the quality of the kit and how to build it, like, I'm going to enjoy building this. And once I finish building it, I'm probably going to enjoy painting it as well. So my opinion on this is going to change just because of how nice of a kit it is. After the specific sprue models, the plastic models, there are some models that are not plastic here. So each side has an infantry platoon commander. And that means you get a 7th Axis model in the Stahltruppen armor, although it's a special character, so he's got a little cape going on, although his weapons are kind of the same as the infantry. And we also get the American platoon commander with the Firefly repulsor pack, I think it's called. I mean, it's nearly the 1950s, we can call it a jetpack if we want. But he has, again, the same weapon as the infantry, the Firefly infantry this time, but just a special sculpt. He's much more interesting. The Stahltruppen commander, he just really has a cloak, that's his thing. But the American one, he's got his nice sheepskin jacket, but he's also in a much more interesting pose. So he'll look pretty cool. I'm probably going to paint them all up together, all the character models up together. But we will see about that. So with the models all answered, there are a couple of extra sprues, 4 of which are duplicates of each other, and they are the terrain. Now, it's nice to have a little bit of terrain in a starter set. It doesn't necessarily have to be much, although 4 plastic sprues is a fairly substantial chunk of what's in the box, so that's pretty nice. I've certainly seen starter sets like this where you just get 1 sprue of like some scatter terrain, or you get some cardboard terrain perhaps, or something else that does the job, that gets you started, and that's kind of what's needed. But in this case, we've got a pretty good model kit of that terrain. Some drain pipes, some lights, street lights, what looks like an intercom or a radio of some description. There's the brick corner pieces and some wooden floorboarding. Essentially in the similar way to how the old bolt action farmyard terrain kit can be made in just about a million different ways. You're just given a bunch of walls to put glue together however you want. This is very much the same in that here's a bunch of walls, glue them together however you want, and kind of each piece, even though each sprue is the same, each piece can be assembled in so many different ways that you can assemble it all and you're not going to have anything that really looks exactly the same as anything else. Particularly once it's painted, these will probably do really nicely. As will be familiar for bolt action players, we have the pin marker sprue and also the blast marker sprue. Now, I never had this one before, so this is the first time I've actually seen it. But I made my own blast marker, so I don't actually need this. There's a lot of the tokens as well on this sprue, Certainly very useful, but it's not something I use. And again, blast markers, I just use dice. I think a lot of players do, but there are a few players who use these, and so I'm certain that I can find someone to fob these off onto. Both of these, in fact, they're definitely going to come in handy for our group, and particularly our newer players. Slightly less interesting stuff, but still worth looking at. We have dice, and we have normal d6 for playing the game, of course. We have the order dice, as you would expect, given that this game is based on bolt action. But we also now have the rift dice. And these, every single one of these has an air bubble in it. We have not found one that doesn't have an air bubble in it, which is disappointing. However, because these are integral to Konflikt 47 2nd edition, we've got them included. And these are for powering up all of your units. All of the rift tech abilities, the energy weapons, the fireflies, jetpacks, that kind of stuff, the repulsor packs. These make them, these are to do with activating them, making them more powerful, and then kind of running them dry as well. Transfers, one for each of the infantry, one for each of the vehicles, Axis and allies. So there's 4 in the starter set. The expanded armies, so the starter armies, each have the 2 for their respective army. So in the mega bundle, I've ended up with 2 full sets of these. I don't think I'm going to be using the infantry transfers because they are just too small. I get that some people like these. It's just not for me, I think. But the vehicle ones will certainly come in handy when I build up the Spinner and the linebacker. It's down there somewhere. Dice bag, only a small one. I think this is the same as the little bolt action starter set that I did a video on a while back. Although, as we'll come to, I've got a bigger dice bag that came with the Rift Tech Mega Bundle, but the starter set comes with this one. I'm not turning it down. I'm not gonna turn it down, but it is a little small, especially with Konflikt 47 and the Rift dice. You kind of need twice as big a bag as you otherwise would, because you need order dice and rift dice, and they are the same size. This is something I wasn't expecting, actually. I don't think this has been mentioned in the promotional work, but we have a battle map. On this side there's a lot of mud with some tracks all over it, and on the other side we have a ruined city with lots of rubble, cobblestones. This will actually go nicely with my Americans, but particularly this will go nicely with the plastic terrain that's included in the set, because that does match quite nicely. And I think this is the last thing. Oh no, we do have bases for everyone. 32mm bases for the Stahltruppen, 25 for the Fireflies, a 60, I think, I need to measure this, but I think this is a 60mm base, or it might be an 80, for the linebacker. Now the linebacker comes with the MDF base, but the Spinner mech doesn't. The Spinner mech doesn't have base, and that is an oddity. I'm not sure why one comes with one and one doesn't. I'm guessing the 2-legged mechs will have bases because they need them to stand up, and the 4 or more legged bases mechs will not have bases because they stand up quite happily by themselves. But the starter set does include an A5 softback version of the rulebook. The Rift Tech Mega Bundle obviously includes that because it includes the starter set, but it also includes the A4 hardback version of the rulebook. Now we checked through it, we kind of compared a few pages to see whether it's the same, and just like Warlord had done before, it's pretty much exactly the same book, just kind of zoomed in, zoomed out for the different sizes. We noticed there was a difference in the first and last pages, but that's pretty much just how it's bound, just binding it into the hardcover. There's an extra page at the beginning and end. That's it, that's the only difference we really found. Because I prefer the hardback book, because I move models. I use this as my model tray. I use the rulebook as a carrying tray to move my models around. It's a bad habit that I should get out of, but I like the hardback book for that. Ratman, my friend from up north, he prefers the softback book because it's smaller, easier to chuck in the bag while he's going to games, which makes sense. So he's got the little one, I've got the bigger one, we're both happy. Final thing in the box, instruction booklets for each of the plastic kits. Not the terrain, that's more of a here's some bits and go have fun kind of thing. But for the infantry, the 2 infantry sets and the 2 mechs, we get the instructions, and these are surprisingly nice for what they are. The infantry gives a lot of information on like which bits go with which, so if there's a left and a right arm that have to go together, they're mentioned in here. For the individual hands, you've got them listed as to which is left and right hand. I've never really had trouble working that out, but I know some people kind of, you pick up a hand and you can't necessarily tell where the thumb is, and it's very small, so it's actually nice to have that listed here to make it very clear, these are left hands, these are right hands. The vehicle sprues are really where the new instructions shine, because they are extremely nice. You've got the sprues laid out with the part numbers listed in the beginning, which is a good thing. That's something that Warlord and Italia have been doing recently. We have then digital renders of each of the components from a isometric kind of the top corner view, which makes it very easy to see what each component is. And each image is really nicely printed, so we're not looking at kind of 4th generation photocopies like some of us are used to with very old model kits. These instructions are going to go together very well. These instructions are going to help us put the models together extremely well, including which ammo pack to put which weapon, which turret to use, and the options between each turret. These instructions are really nice, step by step. There's just 1 or 2 things in each step, so it's not overly confusing with 1,000 things going on at once. So that is everything in the starter set. I think I've covered everything. I'm pretty sure that's the lot. And that, for the price, especially if you're getting it with an extra discount at a local gaming shop, that's a really good deal. These models are such good quality. You get the mechs, you get the terrain, you get all of the other little bits in the dice to actually start playing, as a starter set should have. You can literally buy this box and start playing the game. All the games have really stepped up to this, and they've put the effort in. They are definitely kind of like respecting this release as something that they want to do well, and I like that. So we can look at the other bits that come with the Rift Buster Mega Bundle, which is the Army starter sets for the Americans and the Axis. As I'm talking about instructions, I'll briefly say that the M5 Stuart, which I'll look at in a moment, again, really nice instructions, as it should be. Because this is a plastic kit with a resin turret, it actually has at the front, the parts that you're not using from the plastic sprues are marked in red. And so it's nice and clear about which pieces you need to use to make the Tesla M5 Stuart, the M5 Stuart X. But because those parts are essentially pretty much just the parts for the turret, you can build up the original turret and use that and actually swap the turrets between the two, because you don't glue the turret on. I mean, you can if you want, but usually you wouldn't. And so you can switch between the Tesla turret and the original turret. So I believe this is this is traditional resin. So this is a cast resin piece, and it's come out ridiculously well. I have spoken about resin and resin quality, and all of the companies. I've been wargaming for 30 years. I've seen a lot of different companies make models in different materials, and resin has always been the most inconsistent. And if you don't respect it, you will end up with something that looks awful. And I have this rating system of the worst I've seen to the best I've seen. And Warlord Games is very much on the top end. I'm not going to claim it's the best, I'm not going to claim they're perfect, but they are very, very good. They are high up on the list. The detail has come out beautifully. The mold lines from, as you would expect from a mold, they do exist here. They're not that difficult to clean up. A lot of them are on the underneath, which means that you don't even need to put that much effort into cleaning up, because you're not going to see that part of the model very much. I'm actually wondering, I'm trying to follow where the mold line actually goes. It is quite strange. I think they've done some kind of a wraparound mold. But because this is for the M5 Stuart, and I happen to have an M3 Stuart that I've built and painted on the channel a little while ago. What I want to check is, does it fit? Okay, there's a bit of flashing that I need to clean off, but it will. Oh, that thing looks like it's kind of silly with that massive turret on such a small hull. I don't want another Stuart, so what I'm pretty happy with. I'm gonna build up this turret and I'm gonna use it on the M3 hull. Well, I can pop that aside and move on. So the American kit comes with the plastic M5 Stuart, 2 linebackers. Now I've already sold one of them, so I've only got one additional one left, and then 2 more sprues of Fireflies, which means I have 4 of these in total. There's also some extra dice, and these extra dice are the order dice and the rift dice in the correct colours. They're consistent colours between the starter army and the starter set, which is nice. Good grief, I've got too much stuff to move around. Ah, not you. And the last model, I think I've covered everything in the American starter army now. The last model is the platoon leader, which is actually a very similar model to the one in the starter set, but it is a different pose. And he's even got a shotgun on his back for close encounters, no doubt. But he has the Thompson X and the repulsor pack, so armed the same way as all of the other Fireflies, just a different pose. This guy doesn't have the sheepskin jacket, however, which means I probably prefer the one in the starter set, because that was a cool jacket. But nicely made and a nice addition to the set. The Axis starter army, once again we have duplicates of the Stahltruppen. Now we have 1 sprue, it's only 1 sprue in the Axis starter army, which is a shame. But because I was at Warlord Games and we got the goodie bag as we walked in, I actually did get another one. So I have 4 sprues of Stahltruppen. I actually have some more in this last box that we'll get to, just with all of the extra stuff that I got while I was down there. So just like one of the linebackers, I've also sold off the Spinner mech from the Axis army, but I've also sold the Panzer IV mech, which is now the only model in the entire Rift-Tech Mega Bundle that I have not kept. Not kept one example of. Everything else I've got duplicates of, and I've sold off some of the duplicates. Bigger mechs, I don't know, it's just not my thing. The Panzer IV walking mech is a pretty substantial and really cool kit. It includes the plastic Panzer IV, same with bolt action, and what you do for that, similar to the Tesla Stuart actually, is that you have an alternate turret. So you take off the Panzer IV turret and you put on the Panzer IV X turret, the Konflikt 47 version, but you also have to take off the tracks and replace those with a set of legs. And each of the legs has a mounting piece and the leg itself, and that gives you a bit of maneuverability to pose it. It only rotates the legs forwards and backwards, which is a little restrictive, but not actually that bad. Particularly given it's kind of quite a stout, flat mech, you would expect it to be posed like that. But the problem with that is that the mounting for the legs glues directly underneath where the tracks would normally go. So while you can really easily swap from one turret to another, swapping from tracks to the legs is a little more difficult. What we worked out is that if you make a backing plate out of some metal, you can glue the legs to that and then put a bunch of magnets down the inside of the hull. You can then snap the legs in place with the magnets and then put some metal pieces into the tracks. There's some recesses behind the tracks, so you can kind of pop those on as well. It can be done, a little fiddly maybe, not necessarily a big problem, and if you play as the Axis, that's something you might look into as something you would want to build, perhaps. Or maybe you don't care. If you bought a second Panzer IV, you could just swap the turrets over and have a tracked Konflikt 47 or historical or walking one as you chose. In the Axis army, you also get the don't drop them. the Nachtalben. And these are some of the nicest models for me. These are what I was really looking forward to seeing. But these are CO cast, like the whole lot of them is a CO cast set. But I also ended up with an extra one of these when we went on the tour at Warlord Games. We went around, had a look at their factories, seeing how they make the models, and this is one of them. I will mention that in the instructions for the Nachtalben, rather than having a nice booklet, it's just a little leaflet, it contains all the information you need to. It's just which arms go with which model, which you could almost work that out without the leaflet, but it's nice that it's included. It even says that one of them is a single piece. Lastly, in the Axis bundle is another one of the commanders, another platoon commander, which is another Stahltruppen. He also has the standard weapon. He's waving a knife around as well. Almost, I could say that this is just a standard Stahltruppen. The only difference is really that he has a cloak, because everything else seems to be the same as the plastic kits. But at least it's a different pose, and at least it does have that cloak, so we can paint that up. I may look at some of my older videos and check back on how to make cloaks, and maybe I'll give some more of the Stahltruppen cloaks. You can't stop me. And of course, order dice and rift deck dice, same colours as in the starter set, or the Axis colours from the starter set. It's all consistent between them, so you can add those together. If you bought the Rift Deck Mega Bundle like I did, there's so much stuff here. I don't know where everything is. I'm losing track of everything. It's just, I will sort this out at some point. Right now, this is a mess, and we need to get through it. So, that's the end of the 3 main boxes that come in the Rift Mega Bundle. Starter set, Axis Army, and American Army. But there's a couple of other little bits that do come with it. The dice bag. Now, they didn't have the Konflikt 47 branded dice bag, so I've got a bolt action one with a German symbol on, and I need to check what symbol that is in case I want to adjust the bag. Much bigger. That dice bag is huge compared to these ones. Probably going to be the one I'm going to use more than the others. But the final thing in the Rift Deck Mega Bundle, as you can see here, is the diorama called Reload. So we have the American Firefly reloading model, the Axis Stahltruppen reloading model, and then a big diorama base. Every model except for the Vogelspinner and the Stuart has a base included with it, as you would expect. But all of them are generic flat bases. But the reloading special models, both of them, they actually have sculpted bases which match the diorama base. And I'm pretty sure, I'm very certain that this is related to the, I can't remember the character's name in Saving Private Ryan. An American and a German kind of walk across each other, try and shoot each other, run out of ammo, drop their guns, he throws his helmet, he draws a pistol and finishes the job finally. I think this is alluding to that scene because it's a bit funny. It's a bit horrifying, but it's also a bit funny. And we've got these two characters on opposite sides, right next to each other, frantically reloading. Interestingly, the Stahltruppen model, the reloading one here, is reloading the light machine gun, not the Sturmgewehr. He's reloading the MG44X. I think it's that for Konflikt 47. Whereas the Firefly does have the Thompson, the M1X Thompson with the Tesla coils. So that is something that I'm going to have to pay attention to and do a relatively nice paint job on, because those models are pretty cool. What we did notice, and this is something that we weren't 100% on when we went in, but we actually asked when we went to Warlord Games, and they did confirm that this is how it worked for buying it on their open day, is that when you get the Rift Deck Mega Bundle, it includes the rulebook, the hardback rulebook, and when you buy the hardback rulebook, you get 1/2 of the diorama, so you can choose the Axis or the Allied miniature. So we got one of those. Ratman's got the duplicate there. But because I bought the entire Rifttech Mega Bundle, that also comes with the complete diorama. So I've effectively got all 3 parts of the diorama, both models in the base, and then an extra one of the models that Ratman's got. So we came away with that absolutely chocker with models. Like, look at just how much plastic I've got here. All of this plastic, and this is after having sold a bunch of it to Ratman. Look at that. That's just a silly amount of models. And then I've got all of these little boxes. Little boxes with all of the special characters in. There's that one, there's that one, there's that one. It's all very silly. It's all over the top, and good grief, I have to build and paint all of this. There's so much here. Whoa, whoa. That's the Rifttech Mega Bundle. So if that's all you cared about, you can stop watching here. I've gone a bit delirious because of just how much this is and just how tired I am. But if you want to stick around for a little bit longer, there are a few more models that I can show off because, like I mentioned, I picked this up in person at Warlord Games at their open day. Whenever they run their open day, you just wander around and you can ask and talk to people, find out about how they do their job, and every now and again someone will be like, would you like a free model? And you end up with a bunch of extra stuff. I did mention that one of the sprues of Stahltruppen actually came with in the goodie bag as we walked in the door. So we got that little tote bag with sprue of Stahltruppen. It also came with the American Roberta Wells special figure. So she's not a Firefly. She certainly the art style of her uniform is very similar to the Firefly, but she doesn't have the repulsor pack. We thought she might be a medic, but there's actually nothing on her that specifically says medic. There's some gubbins and tech stuff which might be medical equipment or it might not be, but there's nothing really that says medic. What she does have, however, is an M1 carbine with what to me looks like I think it's called the Vampire night sight. So if she's got a night vision scope, perhaps she's a special character for night fight operations, and she certainly has a bionic eye as well. This is a cool model, and I can't wait to paint all of that. Paint her up with all the other character models. There's so much stuff. There are so many models here. It's silly. It's really silly. So after the tour, we went into the main room, and they were running. Someone was running a little painting competition. So you got given yet another Stahltruppen model, and you get a limited selection of paints and a grand total of 10 minutes to paint it, which is a very short space of time. So when I did this, I used all of the tricks to go as fast as I could. The base coat is, I had this nice rich blue, so I mixed that with some black to make it nice and dark. I think I added a bit too much black because it's very dark. But I watered that down and applied it in such a way that the not so much acting as a contrast paint or a wash or anything like that, but it's just gone on thinly enough that you have it's gone on smoothly but thinly, so you have a little bit of variation in the paint, and that adds a bit of detail, kind of visual interest that you wouldn't get if you painted a nice solid base coat. I put a bit of teal into that mix to make an edge highlight colour, and then at the end kind of spotted on some of the teal by itself for that last little bit of detail. And I spent a lot of my time doing some freehanding on the chest armour, which didn't actually go that well. I've got like a dragon's claw coming from one side, and I drew a dragon's face coming in from the other side. And unfortunately the dragon's head just did not come out well, and so I kind of painted over it. Completely obliterated it, accepted that I'd lost probably 2 of my 10 minutes, and then finished up with just the odd spot of detail. I'm not going to finish this. I'm not going to complete this. This model is done as far as I'm concerned. because it's part of that. It's kind of part of the model's history that I painted it at the competition. I will rebase it because the base is just white, white primer at the moment. So I'll rebase this at some point, but I'm certainly not repainting it. There was a, if I can find where I put it, there was a kit bash table. Here it is. Kind of the thing, this is something I've seen popping up at a bunch of events where you get a bunch of sprues dumped in front of you and you're like, well, go ahead and build something. Take a body from one sprue and legs from a different sprue and arms from another sprue, cut them up, chew them into bits, glue them back together into some weird and wacky way. And I did that a little bit and I came away with a Napoleonic British soldier wearing Stahltroopen armoured legs, and I called this the wrong trousers. It's a little bit of fun that I had there. I also ended up with a very, very small, very tiny little lifeboat from one of the, I think it's the Black Seas, I will have to double check. Oh yes, this is good fun. This is good fun. So as we went around the tour, we had a look at a few different things, and one of the very classic characters at Warlord Games was the resin caster, and he has a bunch of miscasts, and Warlord Games is very, very strict about their quality control. Generally speaking, I've mentioned this before, the quality of Warlord Games resin is fairly good. It's not perfect, not the best I've ever seen, but very, very good. I have seen some people have trouble here and there, and they send it back and get it replaced, and Warlord Games are usually really good at getting stuff replaced as well, so that's nice. But on the open day they had a box of their reject components, and honestly you look at some of the reject components and you think, I can't see anything wrong with this. And in front of me here there's a little crack on this piece, and there's a few absolutely tiny bubbles on the back of this piece, and that's almost certainly the issues with these parts. But this is a 1500 weight Chevrolet truck cab and a Japanese Isuzu truck rear, and I'm going to cut them up, combine them. I need to find some wheels. I can 3D print some wheels, and that will be a nice truck to use. Nobody will notice that the cab and the back end are from different different vehicles. I have also a Lafay, I think this is the French light vehicle, and honestly I can't tell what's wrong with this. There's absolutely no issue with this at all. It's in perfect condition as far as I can tell. It's just not, because this is just the one component, I don't have any of the other bits. It would take a long time to find the wheels and the windscreen and the steering wheel and the fender and the blah 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 and the this and that and the other. So this is probably going to end up being a bit of terrain. And lastly here is Victory at Sea model, the Vittorio Veneto, which sounds like an ice cream, probably because it's Italian. Again, missing all the little bits like turrets and the tower. Probably can find some way of replacing those. Not exactly sure how, but I'll find a way. The only imperfection I can see on this is that the base is thicker on one end than it is on the other, so I suspect that this was put on a table at a slight angle, and so all the resins kind of droop to that end. But when I put it on the table and kind of rock it, it's just this tiny little bit at this end that's causing a problem, so I'll fill in that with Milliput and sand it flat, and no one will notice. That's another model for Victory at Sea, although it'll be the only Italian one that I have. Some of the other fun bits that came in the tote bag that we got at the beginning of the day was a D6 with the Warlord's W on the 6, which is cool. I have a growing collection of weird dice, and that will go nicely in there. But there's also a set of dog tags, one of which reads Konflikt 47, that's printed on there, and the other one is actually stamped, and it says, "This is not war, this is the end," which is the tagline for Konflikt 47. And that's something I might actually wear when I go to Konflikt 47 events, because that's kind of a fun little thing. And interestingly, because everything is packed differently and everything is checked as to how it goes together, I've ended up just in this one purchase because it's made of so many different bits, I've got a stack of the packed by little tickets that they throw in. I've got a few that say key, which I think isn't actually a person. I think that might be a temp, because there's key and then there's key 2. I have an awful lot of Stew, so thank you very much to Stew for packing a lot of this. I also have Vass, and historically my other purchases have also got, I also have a lot of Vass involved. I then also have Larissa, Veronica, Ronnie, Morella and Alexandra. So thank you to all of those people for packing all of my toys, my very expensive toys that I have spent a vast amount of money on, and probably over an hour discussing. What that means is that I probably need to go and edit this video, because that's a ridiculous length of time. And there's a ridiculous amount of models and a ridiculous amount of building and painting that I now need to do. Oh, yeah, I need to paint all this. I need to paint all of this. Oh, wow. This is going to take some time, but it's also going to take some videos. Certainly the mechs are going to get videos building them and probably a separate video painting them. Some of these infantry kits are going to get painting videos. I'm wondering whether I should bundle all of the character models together and paint them as one video, because they're basically kind of very similar, just different poses of the same thing. The Firefly troop kind of officers and the Stormtrooper officers. I might kind of do those 6 characters, plus the limited edition Roberta Wells model, so maybe 7, and the diorama base, if you count that as an extra one. I can do all of that as one video. Or I could do those combined with their respective infantry, because I'll be painting them in the same way. I don't know yet. If you have any opinions on how I go about it, how you would like things shown, if you want any specific character to get more detail, perhaps Roberta Wells deserves her own video, perhaps the Stuart. How do I do the Stuart video? Because I'm probably not building the M5 Stuart, I'm just building the turret for this. That almost doesn't warrant a video in a way. It's kind of a footnote, if anything. And of course, my scrap bits, do they deserve a video? Is anyone interested in me turning the Laffy into a bit of terrain? Or just type in a random support for the algorithm comment, because that seems to also be a handy thing. Oh, good grief, I need to go to sleep. It's late o'clock. I might not even have finished kind of building and painting all this by the time the next Konflikt 47 release comes out. So there's that. But for now, I'm going to go and pack all of this back away and work out what I'm going to do first. Thank you very much for watching. This has been a ridiculously long video. This is very, very silly. This is very, very expensive and a little bit overwhelming, just the amount, just the sheer quantity of stuff that is right here. But I can finally say, and you're probably glad to hear the end of my voice, I'm ED-SKaR, always will be. Thank you very much for watching. Oh, right. Which box do I put what in? Yeah, screw it. I'm going to go, I'll sort this out in the morning.